Is it just me, or are the fighting nerds unstoppable? Like right now, we have this gym that is kicking ass, taking names, and dominating absolutely everyone. Something special is going on over there, and I am going to be talking about some of the crazy awesome talents that are coming out of that gym. And maybe together we can figure out what's going on, because these guys, like I said, are destroying everybody in their path. But before I get into it, if you guys wouldn't mind, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps grow the channel. So first and foremost, let's talk about Caio Borralho. I'm probably butchering that name. It's hard for me to say. I'm sorry. This guy KO'd Paul Craig, beat him in a dominant fashion, and just last Saturday in the main event, dominated Jared Cannonier. And now he is ranked in the top 5. Some people are saying he deserves a title shot. Now, asked in an interview, he said probably Brendan Allen or maybe Sean Strickland. Those would be the guys he'd like to see fight for a title next. But that's the thing about these guys at the Fighting Nerds. They are all class, just all respect, but incredibly dangerous assassins, right? So what I'd like to see from Caio Borralho next, I'd probably like to see him face off against Imavov, although he's booked for Brendan Allen, I think. Or maybe he fights Adesanya, right? I don't think Adesanya is going to take that fight, and I don't think that Adesanya is going to be fighting anytime soon. So Borralho is probably going to have to fight one of the more up-and-coming fighters in the meantime. We do have Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev, so maybe he takes the loser of that fight. Maybe you have him versus Chimaev. I think that would be a dangerous matchup for him. That would be one of the matchups, just because of that dominant wrestling style, that might pose a problem. But otherwise, like, I think he has a really good chance against almost anybody else in the division. Again, we don't know about Chimaev, right? Because he looks like such a dominant force. But at the same time, you know, Robert Whittaker could come in and do what he did to Ikram Aliskerov, right? Because he's such a good, solid fighter, and he's been at the top of that division for nearly a decade. So it's one of these things. But anyway, back to the Fighting Nerds. Borralho, dominant victory over Jared Cannonier. But this entire gym has had some incredible wins as of late. Just at UFC 305, we had Carlos Prates knock out Li Jingliang. First ever to do so. And every time the guy fights, like, his striking is incredible, and he just looks he looks like he's flowing in there, right? Just absolutely calm, cool, collected. Now, you know, he hasn't faced any of the cream of the crop of that welterweight division, but, you know, I think he stands a really good chance against some of those top guys. You know, and the Fighting Nerds, like, they seem to do their homework, right? Because they were, like, that entire fight, he looked like he had an answer for anything and everything the Leech had to throw at him, right? And let's look at some other guys. Gene Silva, I think he's supposed to be a 145-pound fighter, featherweight fighter. He fought in the span of 1 week 2 pretty notable guys. Charles Jourdain, he knocked out in the featherweight division, and then he replaced last minute Drew Dober at UFC Colorado and put on a clinic against him. Incredible fighter, incredible person, and, like, just so respectful. You had Bruna, Brazil, at UFC 304, also part of the Fighting Nerds. She destroyed Molly Mccann in a dominant fashion. You have Mauricio Ruffy, who put on a clinic, I don't remember against who, at UFC 301. Like, all these guys, they seem unstoppable. And we've had periods of this, right, where certain gyms are just doing incredible things, right? Like, City Kickboxing was doing some incredible stuff for a while there out in New Zealand with, you know, Izzy and some of the other guys who are part of that club, right? You had a period where all of Trevor Whitman's guys were, you know, Like you had Thug Rose, you had Kamaru Usman, who was the pound for pound #1 fighter at the time. Justin Gaethje was on the cusp of becoming a champion. So like these little groups are doing really well. You have that crew out of Chicago, right, with Bilal Muhammad as the welterweight champion, and then you had Juliana Pena and just a small group of people that were doing really well. So that happens with gyms sometimes, that things just start clicking. And right now it seems to be that the fighting nerds are doing exactly that. Something that they are doing is working, right? Whether it's you've got a bunch of guys who are just of the same mindset, who are wanting everybody in that gym to, you know, win, be the best. They're supporting each other. And like, I don't know what it is, right? Because I haven't really been part of a fighting gym myself, right? But you can tell when the culture of a gym or a team or something like that is just working, right? When they're all there to kind of build each other up and make each other better, right? Because you see that at each other's fights, like at least one of the teammates is in the corner of the other guy, right? And he's there, and he's, you know, supporting him. And so you have Barrio, who's probably 1, maybe 2 fights away from a title shot. You have Gene Silva, who probably is going to get a ranked opponent next to try to break into the top 15. You have Prates. He's in the top 15 at welterweight. Bruna, Brazil, same kind of thing. Probably going to happen pretty soon. And then you have Mauricio Ruffy, who's probably going to get a ranked opponent pretty soon as well, if he didn't already. Again, I don't remember for the life of me who he fought at UFC 301. So it's just out of that gym, right? And you've got even the people whose names aren't on the top of my head are just, they seem to be doing well. So this gym right now, they are the talk of the town. They seem to be incredibly unstoppable. What do you guys think? Why do you think that is? What are they doing right compared to everyone else? And do you think these guys are going to be future champions? Because I certainly do. I definitely think they're, like, in each division, who would you guys say would be kind of their biggest challenge, right? That's the way I always like to think, right? Because all these guys, like, they seem to have the skills to do really, really well, but who would be the biggest, you know, challenge for them? And like I said, I think that Barrio has a really good chance against almost anybody, but I think Khamzat Chimaev, if he gets past Robert Whittaker, like, people are gonna start to say, okay, like, this guy is the real deal, right? Especially if he ragdolls him in a way that, you know, because we don't know, right? Like, he fought Usman on short notice and you know, barely get the job done. Although I don't know about that. A lot of people were saying that, like, each round probably could have gone to Chimaev. But you never know, right? A lot of people were saying that. So I think Chimaev could be that biggest threat to Barrio. I think everybody else he has a really good chance against and a really good chance to become a champion. If we look at welterweight against Prates, I think you look at somebody like, you know, you have Shavkat there. You have, yeah, I think Shavkat would be the biggest threat to anybody at welterweight right now. Just because he can do it all, right? Every single one of his finishes are by submission or knockout, right? So the guy has that killer instinct. Although Prates' striking is something that's beautiful. So if he can stop any type of takedown or grappling, like, I think he has a great chance. But Shavkat right now, I think he's the biggest threat to anybody at welterweight. Let's be real. If we look at Gene Silva, it depends where he wants to go. But, you know, Ilia Topuria, he'd be a tough guy for him to beat. Max Holloway. But, like, we don't know, right? Because he hasn't really faced any of the top cream of the crop type guys. So, I mean, for Gene Silva, I'd love to see him fight someone in the top 10 next. Like, he beat Drew Dober. And if he wants to stay at lightweight, I think he could do really well in that division too. But at 145, you know, someone like Calvin Kattar, test him against him, which I think he'll pass that test with flying colors. Bruna, Brazil, I don't really know who I'd like to see her fight, but I think a big threat to her would be, yeah, someone like Weili, just who's dominant in every single facet of fighting. You know what I mean? And then you have Mauricio Ruffy. I don't know who he fights, but yeah, like once again, he has such a great chance of beating so many guys in that division as well. So, yeah, just these fighting nerds, they're doing some crazy things. The amount of hype behind that gym right now, it's only growing. The stock is only going up. And I just can't wait to see what they do next, right? Because so here's the thing, right? I made my picks for like UFC 304. And I was about to make my picks for UFC 305. 304, I didn't know who Bruna Brazil was. But as soon as I heard, I think it was Jon Anik. Jon Anik, as soon as he said she's out of the fighting nerds, I'm like, oh, that pick's going to be wrong. You know what I mean? And like as soon as I found out Carlos Prates was out of the fighting nerds, I switched over to him, right? Instead of Li Jingliang. So the fighting nerds, they're on a tear. I'm excited to see what they do next. And let me know what you guys think. Thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.